This is a quick video on how to retarget motion capture into your custom rigs. I'm going to show you how to do that both in Maya and Houdini as well. So the whole idea behind this workflow is to take a mocap clip coming from any source. It can be custom captured by yourself, or it can be something that comes from a motion capture library online from Rococo or Mixamo or many others available out there. And then we're going to see how to apply that mocap to your custom rig. And it can be a custom rig that has been created in Maya or created anywhere else, or it can be a rig that actually comes from another mocap vendor. So you can mix different sources. You can mix a mocap coming from Rococo and use that in a rig created in Mixamo, or the other way around, or any other vendors basically. And of course, what we're talking about here is mostly human animation or human-based mocap. It doesn't mean that you need to apply that to a humanoid character. It can be a robot, it can be a creature, it can be anything. But we're working with biped rigs here. We're not talking about monsters with 3 legs and 8 arms. So this is basically for standard rigs, if you will, based on humans. Right, so I have a few things here. So I have a couple of different rigs, or yeah, a couple of them. And then I have a few mocap clips. This one's coming from Mixamo, and this one here is coming from Rococo. So I'm going to start by just importing the rig itself. So I'm going to go to import. And if I go to rigs, here I have a couple of different characters. It doesn't matter which one I use. For this demo, I'm going to use this robot. Okay, so this is my character. You probably know this character from Mixamo. He's one of their dummy assets. And it comes with the geometry for the body and these joints. And then it comes with a skeleton. And this is a standard skeleton. I believe all the Mixamo skeletons look like this, or they are a fashion of this skeleton. They will look very similar. I believe all the characters in Mixamo are currently bipeds. So I assume all of them would have 2 legs, 2 arms, spine, and a head. And then the hands and the feet. Right. So, yeah, this is the geometry, right? It can be anything. There are multiple characters that you can use, or you can use your own characters, of course. This will work with whatever source of assets you use, no matter what, as long as they are somehow bipeds. So I'm going to hide this for now. It is very important to do what we call characterization, because let's say we have 2 different stages or 2 different phases in this process. The first one being the characterization and the second one being the retargeting. So the characterization, basically, it is to tell Maya, because Maya has an internal rigging tool based on humanoids, which is this tab here called Human Eye. If you don't see that, you need to click on this icon, toggle the character controls, and these are the character controls. So this is a built-in system in Maya that works very, very well. It's very nice. If you have standard rigs, like this one here, again, by standard, I mean 2 legs, 2 arms, spine, and a head. It works very well. It doesn't matter the length of your bones. It doesn't matter the structure of your bones. Like some rigs can have like 4 spine bones. Others can have 2, others can have 3, others can have 5. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the naming convention. It doesn't matter that you have fingers, as I do here, or you don't. If you only have a fist or a hand, it will work as well. So it works very, very well. So yeah, the first step is the characterization. And characterization means telling Maya, or actually communicating your skeleton with Maya, the internal skeleton of these character controls in Maya. So basically it is a way of translating this information that you have on screen into Maya's character internal rigging tools. That is the characterization. And then we have the second part. The second part is the retargeting, which is basically importing a motion capture clip and assign that motion capture to this rig that you have here that you have characterized already. So let's start by doing the characterization. So once you have the rig, it is very important to have it in T-pose. So most likely, if you are using a rig that has been designed for mocap, you would have already like a starting point that looks like this, like a T pose or a pose. Otherwise, you should be able to control your rig somehow to fix that, right? So in this case, if my rig looks like that, you would have to reset it back to there. Yeah, I mean, most rigs will allow you to do this, and most rigs will be created in a T pose or A pose. So you should be able to do this fairly quick if you don't have it already. So it is important to have it as a T pose. Right, so if I expand this, you can see I have all my hierarchy here. This is coming from Mixamo. And as you can see, the naming is pretty clear, but it doesn't have to be any specific naming convention. Of course, name things properly like spine, shoulders, arm, legs, feet, and so on. So it's easier to see what you're doing, but you don't have to follow any naming convention. Okay. I think I added some keys by mistake because I had auto key enabled. So I'm going to create a new scene and import this again. So I'm fresh and I don't have any keyframes now. So I'm going to hide the geometry because it's easier to work with. Now with my rig selected, I'm going to these human IK controls, and I'm going to create a character definition from here. Create character definition. Okay, so now we have a character that is called character one, and then this source, there is nothing here. I mean, this is stance and control rig. These are things coming from this menu here, this user interface, but no, don't worry, just set this one to none, and character one is the character that we just created. Okay, cool. So now here in definition, what you have to do, you have to assign your bonds in this rig to here. So for example, I'm going to expand my hierarchy. If I select, let's say this first one, or actually let's start from the very beginning. If I select the spine is the first bone here in the hierarchy of the spine. And if I go here, I can see that this one is called spine. So if I have my spine selected, I can come here and just right click and click on assign selected bone. So now we have assigned that one. Okay, let's move to the next. You don't have to follow any specific order. So I'm going to select, let's say, the left shoulder. So the left shoulder is not here, right? And it's because there is a hierarchy that we don't see. So when I click here, it says to left shoulder. So if I click there, I go inside, and now here I have the left shoulder. So I'm going to right click, align selected bone. This one here, it says left shoulder extra. Well, if you have an extra bone to control that, you can assign it. We don't, so we don't have to assign it. It doesn't mean that we have to assign every single bone. Okay, so I'm going to select my left arm, and I'm going to go here and assign that bone. Then I'm going to select the forearm and assign it here. And now the left hand, which is this one. Okay, and then for the fingers, you can do the same. You can just click here and go one by one. So if I select this one, the middle one, it would be this, and then the middle two would be that one, and the middle three would be that one. I don't have mocap for my fingers, so I'm just going to omit this part, but it will be just that, just assigning all these bones. It will take me a little while to do that, so I'm not gonna do it because I don't really have mocap for the fingers. But if you do, you just have to do that. Okay, and something important to mention, as you can see, I only did the left side of the character, but the right side was done automatically. That's because this thing here is activated, this mirror matching. So of course, in order to do that, your skeleton needs to be symmetrical. But when you're building characters, you're building them symmetrical, right? You potentially want to break symmetry at some point, but not during rigging. You want to keep rigging as procedural as possible. All right, so let's do, so the spine, we did the spine. So we have spine 1, which is the first or the second bone of the spine. So you can click here, and now this is spine 1. So I'm going to assign it here. Then spine 2, that would be here. And then this one, because it's based on a real human, I guess, you have multiple spine bones. But my rig doesn't really have more bones, but that's fine, right? That's all we have. Then we're good. Then I'm gonna take the neck. So the neck is not here; it is inside. It is this one here. So I'm gonna assign the neck, and then I'm gonna assign the head. Okay, so we already have the upper body. Let's go to the leg. So this is the left leg, which is this one. Then we have this is the first one is called left up leg, and this one is called left leg. So assign it here. Then we have the foot, which is this one here. And then if we go inside of the foot, then we have the base of the foot, which in this case is left toe base. So let's assign it here. And we don't really have any more things here in the rig, so we cannot control, these the different fingers, I guess. So you can just exclude that part. If your rig allows for that, then you can assign them. In my case, I don't have it, so I'm not going to use it. So what are we missing? We're missing the hips, which is quite important. So where are my hips? I guess it's the very first one, right? Which is the root of everything. So I'm going to assign it here. And as soon as I did that, as you can see, I have this validation status set to green, meaning that this character is pretty much ready. Actually, it is ready. Right, so I don't know, this took me like 3 minutes, right? If I wanted to do the fingers, both hands and feet, it would have taken me maybe like 10 minutes. But the good thing is, like, if I'm planning to reuse this rig many times, I don't need to do this characterization ever again. I can just click here on save, and I can save a template. So I can call this one template Mixamo or something like that. I'm not going to save it because I already have one saved, and click OK. So next time that I need to do the characterization from a rig coming from Mixamo, or a custom-made rig that you always do the same in Maya, you can just create your own template and assign that template. So instead of spending 10 minutes working on this characterization, it will take you 1 second. Okay. Right, so we're good. Now Maya understands this rig, and using the character controls that, again, is a built-in tool inside of Maya, now we are 100% sure that we're going to communicate back and forward in a successful way. Great. So I have my character. So what is next? Now it comes the retargeting, right? And the retargeting, it is the process of applying motion capture to this rig. And again, the motion capture can come from anywhere. So I'm going to import a mocap that comes from Rococo. So I'm going to import that one. And let me hide my rig for a second. And as you can see, this rig looks slightly different. It is definitely not the same as the one that I had, because this is a different rigging system. But it is kind of the same, right? Because again, this is based on a human. And so yeah, here we have an animation. That is this guy jumping around. And it starts with a T-pose. You should always get T-poses from a mocap session. But if you don't, what you can do is, let's say if this is your first frame of the animation, you want to reset all the rotations of the bones, and most likely you're gonna get this anyway. Okay, so what do we need to do now? Well, first of all, we also need to characterize this rig, because this rig doesn't understand Maya's characterization tools, right? I mean, the same thing that we just did to our custom rig, we need to do it to this rig. So to do that, let's do this. I'm gonna set this one to none, and I'm going to, with this one selected, I'm just going to do create a character definition. And now this one is character 2. So we have character 1, which is the one that we created before, and character 2, which is this one. So let's do the same. I'm going to expand this. I'm going to select the hips, and I'm going to assign, oops, the hips. Great. Then I'm going to take the spine, go inside, take spine 1, spine 2, and that's it. Now left shoulder, the shoulder is here, left arm, left forearm, left hand. And again, I'm not going to do the fingers, but you can do that yourself if you want. Fingers are here, so it's very easy to do as well, but it's time consuming and I don't want to do that now. Okay, I'm going to go to my up leg, left up leg, left leg, left foot, and then the toe base. There you go. What are we missing? I think we're missing the head, right? Oh, and the neck as well, sorry. So I'm going to go to the neck, and I'm going to the head. Great. So now, as you can see, this character is complete. We have this validator status set to green, meaning that we are good to go. Okay, so let me minimize this. I can hide it. We don't need this anymore. And I'm going to display my custom rig. So now I can just click here and select my character. Okay, so character 1 is my custom rig. And now I can select my mocap in the source. So if I set this one to character 2, now I get my animation, my mocap in my custom rig. So if I display the geometry of my character, there you go. Now everything's working. So this is what we call retargeting. We're getting mocap from one rig, and then we are transferring that animation into a completely different rig. Great, fantastic. Right, so usually when you work with mocap and when you transfer that mocap from one rig to another, you might get small issues. Like, for example, here, right? We're seeing some intersections, and that's because, of course, the volume, the shape, the length, the width, whatever of this character is not 100% the same as the human that captured this. So we can make edits here to fix this quickly. So something we can do is we can come to this blue menu here, and now we can click on Bake to Skeleton. And that is going to bake the mocap into our skeleton. So as you can see in the timeline now, I have frames. I have keyframes that have been baked into my rig. Okay, so at this point, we could actually get rid of this mocap in the scene because we're not using the mocap anymore because we just applied that mocap as keyframes, right? We did what we call a bake of the animation. Okay, so let me go here. So we're having issues with this arm. So if I take this thing and I move it, I can fix that, right? But of course we want to do it in a non-destructive way. So with these bones selected, or all of them if you want to, we can go to the layers. So we can go to the animation layers and we can create a new layer, in this case with whatever we have selected, or we can just create a new layer. We can do whatever we want. To be a little bit more optimized, I'm going to create a new layer with what I have selected. And now, as you can see in my timeline, I don't really have any keyframes anymore, right? Because I'm in a different layer. So in the base layer, I have keyframes. In the layer that I just created, I don't have any keyframes. So I'm going to go, let's say here, and I'm going to add a keyframe. Okay, I'm going to key select it. Then maybe here I can key select it. And then maybe here I can try to fix that error. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, might not be what we want, but this is just a very quick demo. Okay, so now we don't have that issue anymore. We don't have that intersection happening anymore. And of course, that was a very quick, easy fix. But if you have other issues, same thing, right? You can just create a new layer with, I don't know. Let's hide this for a second. Let's say I want to do something crazy with this leg. I just can create another thing here. And maybe, I don't know, I want to set that one to do something stupid like that. Key that one. And then we're going to have that leg offsetted all the time, right? Which is obviously not something that you want to do. So you can enable and disable these layers all the time. So if I disable this layer, you can see that the intersection is there. So this is a non-destructive way. Okay, so yeah, this is basically how it works with Maya. As you can see, it works very, very well if you have biped characters or characters based on human proportions and human rigs. And it's very simple. It works very well. And this is how you characterize custom rigs in Maya and how you do retargeting from a mocap session into your custom rig. Let's have a look at how to do the same approach in Houdini. So doing the characterization and retargeting in Houdini before Houdini 18, it wasn't ideal. It was a little bit painful. But now with Houdini 19 and and 18 and 19 with the new KineFX tools, this is actually fairly simple to do. I'm not sure if I prefer this over Maya's character tools. Probably not, but in some ways it can be better because it's more procedural. So let's take a look. So I'm just gonna create a container here. So I'm gonna create a file node, get rid of these, and these are, KineFX tools comes with multiple nodes that can handle this very well. One of these is this FBX character import. Of course, I'm not going to go through the entire KineFX tools. I'm just going to go through the nodes that are important for characterization and retargeting. So with this FBX character import, I'm going to import my rig, my custom rig. So that will be, just to be consistent, I'm going to use the same rig that I was using before. And I don't know if you notice this, but if I create a Tommy, you can see that my rig is the right scale. It's at a human scale, even though it was 10 times bigger in Maya. That is because this FBX character import comes with these convert units enabled by default. So if I disable that, we see a character that is, instead of 1.8 meters, this is 18 meters. Okay, so it is great that it comes with these convert units by default, which is fantastic, because now we are in the Houdini scale, which is meters, and we should always work in meters when working in Houdini. Okay, this node has also multiple options, like you can actually import a mocap file from here with multiple clips, and then you can select the clip. I don't like to do it like this because you can import those in different nodes. I usually prefer to do that. But let's work on the characterization first. This node has 3 different outputs. So if you want to see those individually, you can connect this one here. So this is the geometry. This is the rig. And this is the animation, which in this case, it doesn't have animation. So these two are pretty much the same. So this is T-pose, and this would be the animation, but again, doesn't have any animation. Okay, so if we connect upon deform, this one has also 3 inputs. So each of these goes here. And when we enable this, if this had animation here, we would actually get the animation. But right at the moment, we don't have an animation, so this is not moving at all. But you need a bone deform in order to get the skeleton moving the geometry. So it is, in a way, like a skinning attribute in Maya. Okay, and if you needed to make any changes here, let's say if this was in A pose instead of T pose, you could always create a rig pose, add it here. And with this one, basically you can select a bone, and then you can move it. Okay, and this is forward kinematics, not inverse kinematics. So yeah, you would be able to basically reposition your rig if needed. Okay, in our case, we don't need it, so we can just clear these changes, or actually we can just get rid of the rig pose node. The rig pose that I just showed you, with this one, you can also animate if you want. Maybe it's not the best way of doing it, but you could, right? But by the way, with this one, you can only work with rotations because it doesn't really have constraints, or it shouldn't have constraints. So when you move things, well, it depends on the way that your rig is built. In this case, it seems that it's kind of connected, but most of the times this should break, as you can see here. Does it break? It doesn't break here, but it should break. But it depends on how your rig has been connected. In here, it seems like I have constraints. But again, this is not inverse kinematics, right? So, you know, it would be very hard to animate this character. So only use the rig pose for rotations. And I also only use it for fixing poses. I don't really use it for keyframe animation. All right, so now I'm going to bring my animation clip, and to do that, we can use an FBX animation import. So in here, I'm going to select my mocap, same as we had in Maya, which is this guy. And as you can see, it is animated. Okay. Can show you these points. It's a little bit easier to see, but yeah, it's exactly the same animation that we had in Maya. And this one, you can select. In this case, I only have a clip. That's why it was working without doing really anything. But if you had multiple clips, they will be available here, so you can actually select which kind of animation you want to use. This one also has a convert unities, because as you can see, this one is also like 10 or 100 times bigger. And you can also change the color. But yeah, I'm gonna keep it like dark blue. Okay. Right, so we have a character and we have our mocap clip. Right. So what is next? I'm going to create a rig match pose, and this one has two different inputs. So I'm going to connect the FBX character import animation rig here, and the FBX import to the second input. There you go. So now if I press enter, what I should do is basically to take my mocap, which is this blue rig, and my custom rig. And what you want to do, it's basically to kind of match the position of this. So if in my case, both are in T-pose, which is what you want to do, but if they were not, you can basically try to align them here, right? But again, I don't have to do that because they are already posed. Okay, so we have these tweak poses here that I've been just manipulating. So I'm going to clear that data because we are good. Yeah, both of them are in T-pose, so I don't have to really worry about that. But this would be the node that you use to match both rigs. The closer they are, the better. They don't have to match in scale. As you can see, my mocap rig is actually bigger than my custom rig, and I'm fine with that. As long as the bones are similar in position, and the pose in general, the neutral pose, the neutral pose, in this case the T-pose, is kind of in the same realm, then we're good. Okay, what is next? Now we need to do the retargeting, which is basically telling to one rig, to the custom rig, we want to say, okay, your joints are, when we compare your joints with the mocap joints, we need to see a relationship in between them. We need to know that your shoulder, in let's say your left shoulder, corresponds to the left shoulder in the mocap rig. And to do that, we use a map points. So I'm going to connect this one here, this one there, and then I can just do that relationship. It is probably a good idea to offset this a little bit, just for now, because now it's easier to basically connect this point with that point, this point with that point, because they are not overlapping, they are not on top of each other. So to do that, basically you take the left shoulder and the left shoulder. And now we have this line connecting them, and we are creating the mapping here. Of course, there are ways that you can automate this in the future, because at least if you have a known naming convention. So I'm gonna take the left arm. By the way, you can also work in symmetry. So when you select, if you press Shift, it will do the other side. Kind of the same deal. I'm not gonna care about the fingers, but fingers will be exactly the same, right? You can just take that one, but I'm not gonna do the fingers. So this is the head, that is the neck, that is the head. Okay, this is the neck, that is the neck. Right, then spine 2, spine 1, and spine. Then we have the hips, and then with Shift, I'm going to do this in symmetry. Okay. Is this everything that we need? Yes, we can do the head end as well. And now we should have everything that we need here. Okay, we're done with this remapping. So now we need to create a full body IK. And this is the one that is going to be controlling the movement. So let's connect these two guys here. And if we play this animation, there you go. So ignore that for a second. So you can see that both rigs are in sync now. Okay, great. So yeah, we're going from a T-pose character. We're taking a mocap animation. We are matching those rigs. Then we're mapping common points in between rigs. And then with the full body IK, we're kind of matching the animation. And this one has like, this one is using this solver called physical full body IK. There is another one called Fabric that I never used, that one, so I don't know what this one does. And then here it has some kind of iterations, which would be basically the quality, and then it has some damping and tolerance. You can play with that if you want to get a little bit of offset and things like that. I don't tend to work with this a lot because, well, if you're working with human characters, most likely this is going to work 100%. But if you're transferring from a human to something like a massive robot, then you might have to tweak the offsets a little bit. But in this case, we don't have to. Right. So finally, we can connect this one here. We can get rid of this null. And now this should work as expected. There you go. I'm going to play this in real time. Okay, so this is working perfectly fine. So what if we need to make small adjustments in the same way that we did in Maya before? Well, we can do that if, let's say, let me try to find the frame where we had issues. Yeah, like here, right? What we did before in Maya was to rotate the arm, the right arm. Well, you can do this in this case with rig builds. I'm not gonna get into a lot of animation tools or rigging tools for now, okay? This is just a quick video about Mocap. But now that I have this one, I can basically select that one, for example, and yeah, I mean, I can rotate this or from here actually. Okay, so we don't have that those issues anymore. And of course, all of these can be animated. Okay. It doesn't work with layers in the same way that Maya does, but it will work with the nodes, which is probably even better. Okay. So this is basically how you do it. Of course, this one is doing this thing, which is probably not the best way of doing it. So I'm gonna clear that animation, and you probably wanna come here, select that one, and you probably want to keyframe this one. Then you probably wanna fix it somehow. So now we don't have that issue. Okay. Of course, the animation is very badly done, because probably when you are around here, you want to select this one and set it to the default. And keyframe it again. Okay. And now we should be good. Okay, cool. So this is how you use key effects for characterization and retargeting in Houdini.